They say the dead never speak, but what if they do? What if the ones who loved us the most, even from beyond the grave, try to save us? One last time. My name is Emily Carter, and 2 months ago, I was preparing for the happiest day of my life, my wedding. But happiness has a strange way of testing us. Because before I could walk down the aisle, something happened, something that changed everything. It all began one quiet night when my dead grandmother came to me. It was 2:43 a.m., I remember because I couldn't sleep. The house was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I turned over in bed, eyes heavy but mind restless. And that's when I heard it, a voice. Soft, familiar, calling my name. Grandma's voice, faint, echoing. Emily, Emily, my dear, listen to me. My heart stopped. It couldn't be. Grandma Rose had been gone for 5 years. Cancer took her in her sleep. I was there holding her hand when she took her last breath. But that night, her voice was right there beside my ear. I sat up trembling, eyes darting around the dark room. Grandma, I whispered. The shadows on the walls shifted as a gust of wind slipped through the window crack. And then she appeared, a faint figure near the doorway. Her silhouette, unmistakable. White hair tied in a bun, wearing her favorite blue cardigan. The same one I buried her in. Her face looked peaceful, but her eyes, they were filled with something else. Fear. Grandma's voice, urgent whisper. Cancel your wedding, Emily. Please, cancel it. My breath caught in my throat. What? Why? She didn't answer directly. She just shook her head slowly and whispered again, do not marry him. Something terrible will happen. And just like that, she was gone. The air in the room turned cold. The light flickered, and I was left alone, shaking under my blanket, clutching my engagement ring, wondering if I was losing my mind. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it was just a dream. A vivid, cruel dream caused by wedding stress. I didn't tell anyone, not even Daniel, my fiancé. Daniel was perfect, or at least I thought he was kind, polite, handsome. He came from a wealthy family, and his mother, Margaret, was, well, let's just say she wasn't very fond of me. But Daniel loved me, and that was all that mattered, or so I believed. A few days later, I was at Daniel's family estate, a beautiful, old-fashioned house his parents owned just outside the city. It was the kind of place that looked perfect from the outside. But somehow, it made me feel uneasy every time I walked through the front door. Margaret greeted me with her usual cold smile. She hugged me lightly, just enough for appearances, and whispered, "You're glowing, Emily." Nervous about the big day? I smiled awkwardly. But the moment I looked into her eyes, I felt a strange chill. There was something guarded, almost dark about her. She led me to the dining room where the wedding planner waited. We discussed flowers, decorations, and color themes, but my mind wasn't there. Grandma's warning kept echoing in my head. Cancel your wedding. The words haunted me. Why would Grandma say that? She adored Daniel. Unless she knew something I didn't. That night, after dinner, Margaret asked me to help her bring a few things from the basement. Daniel had gone out to meet a friend, so it was just the two of us. The basement was cold and smelled faintly of metal and something burnt. Old boxes lined the walls, covered in dust. Margaret pointed toward a shelf at the back. "Could you get that wooden box for me, dear?" she said. I nodded and stepped closer. The box was heavy, carved with strange symbols, the kind you see in old churches or antique shops. Curious, I asked, "What's inside?" Her eyes darted toward me, and her voice dropped low. "Just old family keepsakes. Don't touch it without gloves." Her tone, it wasn't a suggestion, it was a warning. I placed the box on the table and stepped back. But as she turned to leave, something caught my eye. A photograph partially sticking out from under the lid. I couldn't resist. I pulled it out. It was an old picture, black and white, of a young woman wearing a wedding dress. But the face looked exactly like mine. I froze, my breath hitched. "Margaret," I called out. "Who is this woman?" She stopped at the door, turned around slowly and said, "That was Daniel's first fiancé." "First fiancé?" I repeated. "But Daniel never—" She cut me off sharply. "She died a long time ago. Now come upstairs, dinner's getting cold." Then she left, just like that. I stood there, holding that photograph, my hands trembling. The woman looked just like me. Same eyes, same smile. Even the same hairstyle I planned to wear at my wedding. That night I couldn't sleep again because Grandma's words suddenly felt real. Cancel your wedding, Emily. What if that wasn't a dream? What if she was trying to save me from the same fate that woman met? The next morning, I went back to the basement. I knew Margaret wouldn't approve, but I had to see what else was inside that box. The lid creaked open. Inside were old letters, lace fabric, and a small glass vial filled with something dark red. Blood? No, it couldn't be. And then I found a wedding invitation. It was dated November 3rd, 1993. The names on it were Daniel Carter and Evelyn Moore. Evelyn, the woman in the photo. She was Daniel's first fiancée. And the date of that wedding? Exactly 32 years before mine. The same day, the same month. My stomach turned. None of this made sense. I took a photo of the invitation and hid it in my phone. I needed answers, and I knew Daniel wouldn't tell me the truth. But that night, before I could even ask, something else happened. I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my room. Slow, careful. They stopped right at my door, and then a whisper. Grandma's voice, urgent, echoing. Emily, it's happening again. Leave that house. Voiceover, panicked whisper. I jumped out of bed, ran to the door, and pulled it open. But no one was there. Just the hallway, empty, silent, except for the faint scent of lavender, Grandma's perfume. That was the night I realized my grandmother wasn't warning me out of superstition. She was warning me because history was about to repeat itself. And whatever happened to Daniel's first fiancée was about to happen to me. After that night, I couldn't pretend anymore. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The woman in that photograph, Evelyn Moore, wasn't just a ghost from Daniel's past. She looked too much like me, and Grandma's warning was echoing louder every hour. So I decided to dig, quietly, carefully, before it was too late. The next morning, while Daniel was at work, I opened my laptop and searched for her. Evelyn Moore plus death plus 1993. It didn't take long to find an old newspaper clipping scanned into an archive site. The headline read, I froze. The address listed below was the same as Daniel's family home, the same house I was sitting in at that very moment. Evelyn died here, on the day she was supposed to marry Daniel. My mind went blank. I scrolled further down the article. They said the fire started in the basement. They found traces of kerosene, but the cause was undetermined. Evelyn's body was found near the stairs, her wedding dress completely burned. No mention of Daniel, no statement from his mother. Just silence. I felt sick. I looked around the room. Every photo frame, every antique, every carefully placed flower. Suddenly, everything in that house felt cursed. Then I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. Margaret. I slammed my laptop shut. She walked in with her usual fake smile. Tea, dear? She asked sweetly, holding a tray. Her voice was too calm, too precise, like she was always in control of every breath, every word. I nodded and thanked her. She placed the cup on the table and said, You know, dear, that box you opened yesterday, I hope you didn't touch anything inside. Her tone was soft, but her eyes were sharp. Watching me, measuring my every reaction, I forced a smile. No, of course not. I just moved it aside. She stared at me for a few seconds longer, then smiled faintly and walked out. But as she turned, I noticed something. Her right hand. It had faint red scars, almost like burns. I wanted to scream, Run! Tell Daniel everything. But I couldn't, not yet. I needed proof. So that night, while Daniel and his mother slept, I went back to the basement again. This time, I brought a flashlight. The air was heavy and cold, like it was holding its breath. I moved toward the corner where the wedding box had been. Something glinted in the beam of light. It was a metal locket, half buried under dust. I picked it up and opened it. Inside was a small photo, Evelyn again, and next to it, Daniel, smiling. On the back of the locket were engraved words, but death had parted them, hadn't it? Or maybe it hadn't. I turned around, heart pounding. Nothing, just shadows. But then, a faint whisper. Not Grandma's voice this time, a woman's. Evelyn's voice, faint, trembling. Help me. The sound came from behind an old wooden shelf. I moved closer, and behind it, I noticed the outline of a door. Hidden, I pushed, and it creaked open. A narrow passageway led deeper into the darkness. Cobwebs hung like curtains. The smell of smoke and rot filled the air. My flashlight flickered. And then I saw it, a burnt patch on the floor, blackened wood, exactly where the fire must have started. There was something else, a small charred book lying beside a candle holder. I picked it up and flipped through the half-burned pages. It was a diary, Evelyn's diary. The last entry was dated November 2nd, 1993, one day before her wedding. And then, one final line scribbled beneath in shaky handwriting. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the diary and stumbled back. It was all real. Grandma's warning, Evelyn's death, the fire, all of it connected. Margaret didn't just hate her. She had something to do with it. And now I was next. I had to get out. I ran upstairs, heart racing. But when I reached my room, Daniel was sitting there on the bed, waiting. He smiled softly. "Where were you?" My mouth went dry. I couldn't sleep. I went to get some water. He stood up and walked toward me. "You've been acting strange lately," he said. "Everything okay?" I tried to keep my voice steady, just nerves. He brushed a strand of hair from my face and whispered, "You know I'd never let anything happen to you, right?" For a moment, his eyes looked gentle, but there was something else behind them. Something I hadn't seen before, coldness. I forced a smile and nodded, but deep inside I knew I couldn't stay here another night. When he finally fell asleep, I packed a small bag. My plan was to leave before sunrise, drive back to my apartment and figure out what to do. But before I could step out of the room, my phone buzzed. An unknown number, one message. I opened it. It was a photo of me, standing in the basement, holding Evelyn's diary. My blood ran cold. And the message beneath the photo said, that was the moment I realized I wasn't just uncovering the past anymore. I was part of it, and someone in that house, maybe both of them, was making sure history repeated itself. That message, "You shouldn't have opened that box," those words burned into my mind like fire. I froze, standing in the dark hallway, clutching my phone so tight my hands shook. Someone had seen me in the basement. Someone was watching me. I turned slowly toward the staircase. It was silent, too silent. The shadows seemed to move on their own. And somewhere, deep in the house, I thought I heard breathing. I ran back into the room, locked the door, and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. I wanted to scream, but I knew I had to stay calm. Grandma's warning, Evelyn's diary, the photo of me. It all added up to one terrifying truth. I wasn't safe here anymore. So I grabbed my car keys, slipped my shoes on, and crept down the stairs, every step creaking beneath me. I could see the front door just a few feet away. Freedom. But then, the hallway light turned on. Daniel stood there, barefoot, expressionless, going somewhere? He asked softly. My mouth went dry. "Daniel, I wasn't feeling well. I just wanted to get some air." He smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "Air? At 3 a.m? He stepped closer. I stepped back. The air between us felt heavy, like something invisible was pressing on my chest. Then he said it. "Evelyn said the same thing, Jan, before she left." My heart stopped. I stared at him, speechless. He knew I had found out. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You shouldn't have gone into the basement, Emily. My mother told you not to." I swallowed hard. "Daniel, what happened to Evelyn?" He looked at me with a strange sadness in his eyes. She wasn't meant to leave. He reached out and touched my cheek gently, the same way he used to when we first met. But this time it didn't feel like love. It felt like control. I pushed his hand away and whispered, "You're scaring me." He tilted his head slightly. "Am I? Or are you just realizing that some people can't handle the truth?" Then, before I could say anything, Margaret's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. "Daniel," she said, "it's time." I looked up and saw her, calm, collected, wearing a silk nightgown and pearls, like she had been waiting for this moment. She walked down slowly, each step deliberate. Daniel stood still, eyes cold as she reached his side. Margaret looked at me with that same icy smile. "You were warned, Emily. I even tried to like you. But you couldn't stay out of things that didn't concern you?" I backed toward the door, gripping my phone. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. Her smile widened. The same thing I wanted from Evelyn, obedience. I turned and ran. I didn't care if I screamed, if I woke the whole neighborhood. But before I could reach the door, Daniel grabbed my arm. "Let go!" I yelled, struggling, but his grip tightened. His calm voice cut through the chaos. "Emily, I loved you. You were supposed to trust me." I kicked his leg and broke free, racing outside into the cold night. The rain hit my face like needles, but I didn't stop running. I jumped into my car, jammed the keys into the ignition, and sped away. The house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, but the fear inside me grew larger. I drove for hours. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to be anywhere but there. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, I pulled into a small roadside motel and collapsed on the bed. I thought I was safe, but safety is just an illusion. When I woke up that afternoon, there was an envelope slipped under the door. No name, just one word written on the front: Grandma. My heart skipped. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was an old letter, yellowed paper, fragile, written in my grandmother's handwriting. It read, "I couldn't breathe. My grandmother knew Margaret." She'd been part of this decades ago. I looked closer at the letter. There was something else, a photograph tucked behind it. A picture of my grandmother and Margaret when they were young, standing in front of the same estate house. On the back, in faded ink, was written, "I dropped the letter." The truth hit me like lightning. Daniel wasn't just Daniel. He hadn't aged in 32 years. Evelyn died in 1993, and he still looked exactly the same. Grandma's warning wasn't just about danger. It was about something unnatural, something cursed. I grabbed my phone and searched Daniel Carter online again, but there were no recent records before 2010. No college photos, no job history, nothing. It was like his life before me didn't exist, except for that single newspaper article. And then, just as I started piecing it all together, my phone buzzed again. A video file from an unknown number. I opened it. The footage showed the basement, the same one from last night, but it wasn't empty. In the video, Daniel stood in the middle of the room holding a candle. Margaret stood behind him, chanting words I couldn't understand. Latin? Maybe something older. And lying in front of them was a wedding dress. Mine. I dropped the phone, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. They were preparing something, a ritual. I didn't know what they wanted, but Grandma's letter made it clear. Margaret had bound her son's soul to some kind of dark promise, and each bride was part of that ritual. Evelyn had died in the fire because she tried to leave, and now they were trying to finish what they started, with me. I couldn't run forever. I had to end this, not just for me, but for Evelyn and Grandma. So that night, I drove back to the Carter estate. The house stood silent, the lights dim, as if waiting for me. I parked down the road, walked through the trees, and slipped through the back gate. The basement window was still open, the same one I'd left cracked before. Inside, the house was dark, but the basement glowed faintly, flickering candlelight. I crept closer and saw them, Margaret and Daniel, standing before an old altar, whispering those same ancient words. On the table lay my photograph, my ring, and a small vial filled with my blood. My knees went weak. They had taken it from a cut on my hand earlier that week. They'd been planning this all along. Suddenly, Margaret turned, as if sensing me. "Welcome back, Emily," she said softly. "We were waiting for you." I stood frozen at the doorway, tears in my eyes. And Daniel, he looked at me, not with love, but pity. "Please," I whispered, "let me go." He stepped forward slowly. "You don't understand," he said. "She'll die if I don't. My mother made a deal long ago, a soul for a soul. Each time I fall in love, the woman must take my place." My voice broke. "You knew this?" His eyes filled with tears. I tried to fight it. "But I can't. I'm already dead, Emily." Dead. My fiancé was already dead, and his mother was keeping him alive. He said he was already dead. Those words kept ringing in my ears, like a heartbeat that no longer belonged to the living. Daniel Carter, the man I loved, wasn't a man at all. He was a soul bound by a curse, one that fed on love, on innocence, on life itself. And his mother, Margaret, was the one who had chained him to that fate. I stood at the basement door, frozen between terror and heartbreak. Margaret's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. She looked calm, too calm, like everything happening was normal. "Do you see now, dear?" she said softly. "Every love story demands a sacrifice. You were chosen because your soul is strong enough to save him." Her words slid through the air like venom. I shook my head. "No, love isn't about sacrifice. Not like this." But Daniel stepped forward, eyes filled with sorrow. "It's the only way," he whispered. If you don't, I'll fade forever. My heart broke right there. He wasn't lying. His face looked tired, his skin pale, the faint shimmer of something not quite human around him. I reached out, trembling, touching his cheek. It was cold, not lifeless, but close. Then fade, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Because I'd rather lose you than lose myself. Margaret's expression changed. The calm mask cracked. She stepped closer, voice sharp as glass. You foolish girl. Do you think love is enough to break death? I built this ritual. I kept my son alive for 32 years. You will not destroy him. She raised a silver dagger from the altar, its blade glinting in the candlelight. The air turned colder. I stumbled back, knocking over a candle. The flame caught the edge of the cloth on the table, the same spot where the old fire had begun decades ago. Margaret lunged. I grabbed the locket, Evelyn's locket, from my pocket and held it up like a shield. Stay back, I shouted. The flames around us flickered higher, and then I swear I felt her. Evelyn. Her voice whispered through the smoke. End it. With love. I looked at Daniel. He was crying. Tears that shouldn't have been possible for someone who'd already died. Emily, he said quietly, please, free me. I held the locket over the fire. Margaret screamed, no, and rushed forward. But before she could reach me, Daniel stepped between us. The dagger plunged, straight into his chest. Not mine, his. Time stopped. He looked down, shocked, then smiled faintly. Thank you, he whispered. Now it's over. The flames roared higher, swallowing the altar, the walls, everything. Margaret screamed, not in pain, but in rage. She fell to her knees beside him, shouting words I couldn't understand. I grabbed the letter, Grandma's letter, from my pocket and read aloud the line written on the back. The locket in my hand began to glow. A light, bright, warm, pure, burst from it, wrapping around Daniel and Margaret. She screamed as the light consumed her, the darkness peeling away like ash. Daniel looked at me one last time, whispering, I remember now. I loved you in every life. And then they were gone. The fire died in an instant. The candles melted to nothing. The house fell silent, so silent it hurt. I dropped to my knees, gasping for air. The locket lay in the ashes, cold and cracked. Inside, the photo of Evelyn had vanished. Only one remained, me. I walked out of that house at sunrise, barefoot, covered in soot, and half believing it was all a nightmare. But it wasn't. A week later, the Carter estate burned to the ground. The investigators called it an electrical fault. No bodies were found, no trace of Daniel or Margaret. I returned to my apartment, but nothing felt the same. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't forget. Then one night I dreamed again. I was standing in a garden filled with white roses. And there she was, Grandma Rose, smiling. You did what I couldn't, she said. You broke the chain. I felt tears fill my eyes. Is he gone? She nodded gently. Free, both of them. Then she looked toward the horizon, her voice fading with the wind. Love doesn't end with death, Emily, but it should never die for it. When I woke, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. The sunlight hit my face through the window, warm and golden, and on my nightstand lay something I hadn't seen before. The locket, restored. Shining inside, 2 pictures. One of Evelyn, smiling, and one of Daniel, finally at peace. I still wear it sometimes, not as a memory of pain, but as a promise, because Grandma was right. Love can survive death, but only when it's free. And sometimes, the dead don't come to haunt us. They come to save us.